Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and I've got another book haul for you. I was recently in Colorado, and while I was in Colorado, I was in Colorado Springs. And in Colorado Springs, there are actually quite a few used bookstores, and I think I went to every single used bookstore in Colorado Springs. Now, I did not get to the Goodwill. There was a Goodwill there. Actually, I think there were two. And I did not get to the Goodwill to go look for books, but I did get to a couple of other thrift stores there. There was the Ark thrift store. There were two of those in Colorado Springs, and I went to one of them. And that store was pretty good. They had quite a few things. They had some Nancy Drew books, which we'll get to in a minute here. But first off, I have got to show you, there was one store in particular, Base Camp Books. That place was a gold mine of so many amazing books. If you're in Colorado Springs or in that area, definitely go visit Base Camp Books. They used to be called Hooked On Books. There's another place called Hooked On Books that's in downtown Colorado Springs now, but Base Camp Books has been renamed, kind of, I guess. That's kind of what it seemed like from when I was talking to the store worker that was there. And so their Base Camp Books, they have tons of stuff packed in there. They have a huge sci-fi, fantasy, and horror section. They've got a huge middle grade section, and the YA section was more new stuff, it seemed like, than more retro stuff, but they had a lot of fun books in there. So let's dive into all the stuff I found while I was in Colorado Springs. So first up, I picked up 3 more Mind Warp books by Chris Archer. Now, this series is really interesting. I have read the first 2 books, and they were both so good. Way better than I thought they would be. And especially book 1, in my review for that book, which is up on the channel you can watch. In that review, I talked about how it's a little more comedic at the beginning, but book 2 was like a straight up alien horror novel. And it was so much fun. And so I have been looking for the rest of the series. I have quite a few of them. There are 10 books in the series, and I'm very close. I almost have them all now, except for book 3, which is apparently one of the rarest ones and goes for a lot of money online. So I'm gonna have to try and just keep hunting for it. And I'm on book 3, so I need that one. But in the meantime, I found book number 6, Aftershock. And these all have this really awesome, like metallic, I'm gonna try and get the light to shine on it a little bit, this like metallic piece on the cover that's so awesome. They're just so amazing. So this is book number 6, Aftershock. And then I also picked up book number 8, Face the Fear. And then I also found the last book in the series, book number 10, Meltdown, which this cover's a little goofy, but I still love that metallic stuff on the bottom there. It's just so awesome. I think it's such a cool, super 90s kind of cover. So I can't wait to read the rest of the series because I need to find book 3. That is the one I've got to find, Alien Scream, and then I can plow through the rest of this book series, which has been so fun so far. I also picked up book number 2 in the Star Quest book series, Operation Master Planet by Gregory J. Smith. This is a Christian sci-fi book series. It looks like it's just a duology from what I can tell from the 80s. So I am super excited to read this. This one is from Bethany House Publishers, which is super interesting for that particular publisher to put out a sci-fi novel. Nowadays, they're more known for Amish romance and some of the kind of romance sort of books that not my personal favorite. So for them to have done a sci-fi book back in the day is really fascinating. And I'm super interested in these books to see how they are. And now I am 1 book away from finishing my Star Trek Deep Space Nine collection, because while I was there, I found book number 8. This one is called Highest Score, and this one is by Kim Antilles. So I am so close to having this full series based on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It's a middle grade novel series, and these are in pretty good shape. A lot of the ones I've found so far that have been in nice shape. So I have just 1 more to go, and I've got this whole series. I've read 2 of these now. The first one was really good, The Star Ghost. And book 2, it was called Stowaways. It was kind of like in Star Trek series, there are episodes that are like nice filler episodes. They're not special. they're not ones you go back and rewatch. They're just like another one in the series that's like another one with your characters that you like and all that kind of stuff. That's how that book was, just kind of another one in the series, but I have hopes for the rest of the series because book 1 was so good. So this one is book number 8, highest score. And I'm also really close to finishing my Star Trek The Next Generation Starfleet Academy series, the longest title ever for a book series. But I picked up 2 more in this series, 2 of the rarer ones and harder to find ones. And that is book number 12, Breakaway, with Deanna Troi right there on the cover. And this one is by Bobby J.G. Weiss and David Cody Weiss. So this is book number 12. This is another middle grade Star Trek series that's based on all the characters from Star Trek The Next Generation, and they are in Starfleet Academy. So these are a lot of fun. I really enjoy these books. And then I also picked up book number 13, The Haunted Starship, which I am super interested to read this one. I've read a lot of these from when I was a kid, and I don't think I ever read this one. So especially it's a spooky sounding one. I think spooky Star Trek is some of the best. It's so fun. So I can't wait to read this and see what happens. And then I honestly couldn't believe it. I recently found the rarest book in this trilogy sitting at a half-price books in Minnesota. And when I was in Colorado, I found book number 1 in this trilogy, and that is Star Trek Voyager Starfleet Academy, book number 1, Lifeline. And this one is also by Bobby J.G. Weiss and David Cody Weiss. This one follows Catherine Janeway in Starfleet Academy, and these are so hard to find. This book is kind of rare. It's really difficult to get a hold of because they did not make a ton of these. There's only 3 in the series. Star Trek The Next Generation Starfleet Academy is kind of the most popular of these book series, followed by the Deep Space Nine series. And then this one is a later one that they just didn't put as many copies out. So they're a lot harder to find. But now I have book 1, so all I need is book 2, and I've got this full trilogy. I can't wait though, because now I can read this one and find out what happens in book 1. And I'm so excited because Voyager is my favorite Star Trek series of all the Star Trek series. So this one was like the one I watched when I was a kid, and it was on TV, and I loved it so much. It kind of was like the one that ignited my love for Star Trek. So I am so excited to have this book. And then this one is quite the find. I have never seen these in real life, out in the wild. I've only seen them available online, but I found one, book 1 in this series. Now this is the first book, I'm gonna have to look because it's a long title. The first book in the Misadventures of Willie Plummet, Invasion from Planet X. And this is by Rod Randall and Paul Buchanan, who also wrote the Heebie-Jeebies series. So the Heebie-Jeebies series is a Christian spooky book series based off of Goosebumps kind of fame, and it's the other Spine Chillers. So Spine Chillers is one of the Christian spooky book series that's out there, and then Heebie-Jeebies is the other one, and there's a couple others actually as well, but we won't talk about those right now. But this one is by the authors of the Heebie-Jeebies series. And actually, Paul Buchanan wrote some short story novellas for the Fright Time series, which his one that is The Ghost of Kid Willie is so good. That is an excellent Fright Time story. So definitely, I'm excited to read this because it also seems like Bill Myers' series, The Incredible Worlds of Wally McDougal. And this seems very similar to that in a lot of ways. So we'll see how it is. This is book number 1, so I can finally read this. I think there's 10 books in this series, but I have never seen them in the wild. And a lot of times, some of these Christian book series are a little easier to find because people are just not hunting for them quite like I do, because I have that intersection of interesting middle grade books from the 90s and also Christian books I like to look at. So this one is another one that I am excited to read and see how it is. Sometimes they're not all they're cracked up to be, but sometimes they're pretty awesome. And then I have quite the stack of spooky books to talk about. I was so excited to find so many different ones of these, and here we go. The first one I picked up was Strange Matter Book 4, A Place to Hide by Engel and Barnes. I'm slowly collecting these as I find them. There's not always a ton of them out there. So as I find them, I pick them up. And this one, the cover is really odd. I I thought that was a tree, but I think it's a foot, like a dinosaur foot. So I don't even know. These are pretty wild from what I understand, and I haven't read any of them yet, but I am interested to start reading some of these. And then I also picked up book number 22, Dangerous Waters by Engel and Barnes. This one I think is another dinosaur on the cover, maybe? Thing in the sewer? I don't know. This one's also interesting because there was a short story contest in 1996 that the short stories included in the back of this book. So that's kind of fascinating. I am excited to read these. And then I also picked up another Screamers book. This one is The Trap Door. So these are like a collection of short stories in the Screamers series. I have one other ones of these, and I think there's only 2. I'm not totally sure. I can't find more, but there could be more. But this is another one in the series, The Trap Door. And then I was so excited about this one. Now, I do own this book already, but I didn't own it in this edition because they have out there Spine Chillers. This is book number 3, The Venom vs. Me by Fred E. Katz. You know, Fred E. Katz. But what's interesting is I do have the Spine Chillers Mysteries edition of this book. Now, the Spine Chillers ones came out first. They released all of these. Thomas Nelson, this is a Christian Goosebumps knockoff. And this one, they released them all as Spine Chillers, but later they re-released them all as Spine Chillers Mysteries, which I think there are reasons for that. It is probably because in the Christian market, horror books are kind of hard to sell, and so I could see them rebranding them as mysteries and being able to sell those a lot easier to the Christian market. But this is the OG, the Spine Chillers book edition of Venom vs. Me. So I have read this one. This is one of the better Spine Chiller books. It actually has a pretty good plot from what I remember, and it's kind of interesting. So this one is book number 3. And then I found 2 more books in the Bloodhounds Inc. series. And so this is book number 6, which has quite the sticker collection on it that I'm going to have to work off eventually here. But this one is The Case of the Missing Minds by Bill Myers. Now, this is another spooky-ish series. It is more like silly Scooby-Doo than anything else, but they're pretty fun. I've read 4 of these so far, and I need book 5. I don't have book 5, but this is book 6, The Case of the Missing Minds. And then I also picked up book number 8, The Curse of the Horrible Hair Day, which this one looks entertaining. I want to know what's going on in this because these are Christian spooky books, so kind of interesting, and we'll see what happens. And then I have never seen this out in the wild. I always find book 6, which I already have book 6, but I have never seen any others in this series anywhere until now. I found this one at Poor Richard's Book House in downtown Colorado Springs, which was a pretty fun bookstore. They had a coffee shop attached to it and also a board game store as well. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed looking around in there. They did have quite a bit of new stuff, kind of mostly took over the store. The used area was a little small, but they had this book, and this was the only book I got while I was there, but it is Cyberzone Book 1, Meltdown Man. I have book number 6, and I find book number 6 everywhere, but I've never seen book number 1 out in the wild, so here it is by S.F. Black. And I can't wait to read this one. It's another spooky series that's, kind of has a tech vibe to it. So, but I think it is more horror than it is like Twilight Zone. Like Twilight Zone, I don't always think of as horror. It's more like disturbing style stories, if that makes sense. It's not quite the same. So I think these do have a little more of a spooky bent to them. So this one is Cyberzone Meltdown Man. And then I picked this book up. I have read this back when I was a kid, and I have all of the other books in the Magic Shop series by Bruce Coville, except for Jeremy Thatcher Dragon Hatcher, which I now do have. I remember loving this book. I checked it out from our school library in like 4th grade, and I really liked it. And this was the exact edition that I had checked out. So I saw this one and I thought, I haven't seen that one out anywhere. And I did love that book, and it was super cheap. It was like $1.25. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to pick that one up and add it to my Magic Shop collection. So now I've got pretty much all the Magic Shop books that there are, The Monsters Ring and Jennifer Murdley's Toad and Jeremy Thatcher Dragon Hatcher, which this one's a pretty fun one too. And then I was super excited to find these. I had heard about them on the internet by just like looking around at different kind of middle grade spooky series from the 90s, but I've never seen them in real life until now. I found two. So I found book number 1 of the Monster Hunter series by Nancy Garden, and this one is The Mystery of the Night Raiders. So these are put out by Minstrel Books, which I do love me some Minstrel books, but I was super excited to pick this one up, which it's a little longer than some other middle grade 90s books, which I thought was kind of interesting. But then the next one in the series, book number 3 that I found, which is The Mystery of the Secret Marks, is actually even longer than this one. So it's kind of interesting how long this book is. I thought that was fascinating. So these look like a lot of fun. I can't wait to read them. There's 5 books in this series. A couple of them are hard to find, but these ones I've never seen out in the wild, and now I've got these too. And speaking of Bruce Koval, I finally have the other one in the My Teacher is an Alien series. I think that's what it's kind of called. Bruce Koval has like all these sequels and sequels and sequels to books, and they're like unofficial series, and there's not really a given order of them. But this one is My Teacher Glows in the Dark in the mass market paperback edition. So I was super excited to find this edition because my other ones of these are mass market paperbacks. So I kind of wanted them all to be the same. So there it is. And then I picked up another Christopher Pike book, and this is Remember Me Too, The Return, which after reading Scavenger Hunt by Christopher Pike, I am super interested to read more from him because that book was so wild and I really enjoyed it. So I want to read more Christopher Pike, and I just love that step back art that's in this. Like the eyes looking through the letters, so creepy, so awesome. And then I also found Christopher Pike's Chain Letter book, which I do have Chain Letter 2, but I did not have the first one. So now I can read this one and then read the other one. And I think I might read this one pretty soon because this one looks really interesting to me. A friend of mine has read this and she said she really liked it from when she was younger. She had read it. So I want to read this one and see what happens. And then this was an interesting series I'd never heard of before. This is a YA series and it's called Samantha Slade. And this is Samantha Slade Book 1, Samantha Slade Monster Sitter. And this is by Susan Smith. So it's kind of like a Munsters-y kind of thing, it appears to be from what I was reading on the back, and it looks really interesting. So I picked this one up because it's book number 1. It's like from the 80s, so it's a nice little mass market paperback, YA thriller horror, so we'll read it and see what it's like. And then I found a few more Fear Street books. So the first one I found was one of the Fear Street Saga books in a hardback bind-up edition from probably an ex-library copy, it looks like. This is book number 2, The Secret. And then I also picked up a mass market paperback edition of Broken Hearts, a super chiller in the Fear Street series, which I have read this one. I have a review up on the channel. The edition I have is actually kind of an oversized trade paperback, but I was super excited to find the mass market paperback because it'll match all the rest of my Fear Street books now. And then I don't know exactly which one this is in the Cataluna Chronicles, but this is the Cataluna Chronicles Fear Street book, The Deadly Fire. I am having trouble trying to figure out the order of these. If someone knows, please let me know, because I would love to know. And then I also found a copy of Blood Moon Book 1, The Curse, by Connie Lau. So I'm excited to read this one. It looks really interesting. It's set in an amusement park, which I think is super fun. I think it should be a good time. It looks like from the back cover. It sounds like an interesting spooky book. So it's another mass market paper edition. So I'm excited to read this one. So another book I was really excited to find and I was on the hunt for because Colorado Springs is kind of known for being a big area for Christian publishing. So I thought, okay, if there are these books anywhere, they might be in Colorado Springs. The other place I think they might be is in Seattle, Washington, because that's where the author was from. But I haven't been to Seattle, Washington in quite a while, and if I do get to go up there, I will be on the hunt. But I did find book number 6 in the Exotorn Adventures by Peggy Downing, Brill and the Puffire Volcano. This is one of my favorite series I discovered last year. I read all 6 books back to back to back, and I was telling my sister-in-law about these, and because I thought, oh, my niece would probably love these books. So I was telling her about them. She's been on the hunt for them, and I finally found another one. So I said, I'm going to grab it. It was only $2. They didn't know what they had. And so I grabbed it because these go for so much money online. And I am going to send it to my niece. And I was so excited to find this edition of the Exotorn Adventures, book number 6. And then I did not really know there were other books in the Rosie series, but there is, and this is Rosie's Secret Spell, and this one is all about a spelling bee by Roby H. Harris. So Robbie, I think it's Robbie, I don't know. But this one is another one in the Rosie series, and I have another one of these, and so here it is. This is such an 80s, 90s kind of vibe. I love it so much. Can't wait to read these. And then I found 2 more Hardy Boys Case Files books, which I read book 1 in this series, and it was pretty good. I really liked it. And so I found book number 47, Flight into Danger, which this one legit references Top Gun right on the back. And I thought, really? Top Gun? You're just going to be that obvious about it here? This is after that movie came out, and I am not surprised. It is like based on that movie, possibly, like kind of similar. So here we go, a Top Gun Hardy Boys book. And then I also picked up book number 86, Virtual Villainy. And then I finally found another Nancy Drew notebook series in the old cover editions. They do have re-releases of these, but I just like the old covers. So I found book number 10, Not Nice on Ice. So I'll have to save this for next winter to read. And these are like a shorter Nancy Drew book. They have very large font inside of them. So it's a very, very large font, but they look like a lot of fun. I can't wait to read these. And then I found 3 more in the Nancy Drew minstrel covers. I really like these covers the best out of all the Nancy Drew covers. So I've been slowly collecting them as I find them. And so I found book number 84, The Joker's Revenge by Carolyn Keene, of course. So here's The Joker's Revenge. I love these covers. I just really like the style of them. And then I also found book number 114, The Search for the Silver Persian, which, I'm not gonna lie, Nancy Drew solved a lot of crimes, but now she's saving cats out of trees. I can't. And then book number 117, and I can't lie, the title of this one is so bad, but it's Mystery on the Menu. Oh, I don't even know what's happening. And then I found another one of the Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys Be a Detective Mystery Stories. And this is book number 3, The Feathered Serpent. So these are a choose-your-own-adventure series that feature Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys and are co-written by Carolyn Keene and Franklin W. Dixon. So I have book number 1 in this series, and here is book number 3. And then I found another one of the Hardy Boys books, and this is also in the Minstrel paperback editions, which I really I love these covers. And so this is book number 96, and this one is Wipeout. And then I found another book I was super excited about, an Oz book. Well, kind of an Oz book. It's like L. Frank Baum wrote some stories that are in the world universe of Oz, but aren't actually Oz books. And one of those is Sky Island. Now, this is a Dover edition of Sky Island. I really like these Dover editions of these books for reading copies of these old books, because these books are super old. If you find old editions like these right here are some old editions. These right here, yeah. These are some old editions like of John, Joe, and the Cherub and Queen Zixie of Ix here. And those, I don't really want to read these copies. These are more just display copies because they're such old books. And so these are great reading copies because the Dover editions really tried to preserve the style of the writing and the illustrations and even the way the chapters were headed and things. And this particular edition also has the color plates all together in one spot. So they feature all of the color plates that were in the original hardback book, but they're all in one spot together. They're not spread out like they were in the original hardback editions over there. So I was excited to find this book, Sky Island. I didn't have this one. I have the Sea Fairies. This one is about Captain Bill and Trot, And Captain Bill and Trot are two characters that do come to Oz. They are in the book Scarecrow of Oz, and they show up a lot of times throughout other Oz books. And so I was super excited to find this one because I've only read this one once, a long time ago, and I haven't read it since. And I've read the Sea Fairies since, and I really enjoyed that one. That one is also about Captain Bill and Trot, and they go to kind of through some worlds around Oz, and this one, they're in the skies around Oz. So they go to a bunch of different places, lots of adventure, super fun stories. If you've read Oz books and you're looking for more stuff like it, read Sky Island and the Sea Fairies. And then moving on to some adventure books, I found 2 more Young Indiana Jones books I didn't have. Now, there are like 50 million Young Indiana Jones series out there. There is the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which are based on the show. There's some that are new stories based on the show, and then there's another series that is novelizations of episodes of the show, and then there are choose your own adventure books that are based on episodes of the show and new ones of the show, not from the show. And then there's the Young Indiana Jones series, which is separate from that. It's exhausting. The Young Indiana Jones series is all new stories. Now, I've read 2 of these, and I have not reviewed them yet because they're kind of interesting and definitely products of their time and have some stuff to say that I was like, ooh, I don't know how I'm going to talk about that on YouTube. So that's interesting. But I did find 2 more of them. And the second one, The Tomb of Terror, was a lot better than the first one, The Plantation Treasure. And so I definitely did like The Tomb of Terror a lot better than The Plantation Treasure. But here's 2 more in that series. So I found book number 4, Young Indiana Jones and the Secret City. And I have to show you the most sad and depressing thing ever. But on the back, the label that I will not be taking off is from Toys R Us. Rest in peace, Toys R Us. Well, I guess it's kind of make a comeback, sort of, but it's not the same. It's not like it was back when I was a kid. You could walk into a Toys R Us store and they were amazing. So here's book number 4 with the Toys R Us sticker. And then I also found book number 6, Young Indiana Jones and the Gypsy's Revenge. And then I found another book in the Micro Adventure series. And this is book number 1, Space Attack. Now, these are really interesting because they are a story, but they feature computer programs for BASIC or Commodore 64 or the Apple II. And so you have to type in the programs that are written out in the book, and they help advance the storyline. So these are super interesting. I haven't read any of these yet. I am so curious to read them. They're kind of like standalone anthology entries in the book. I have a couple others already, but this is book number 1 in the Micro Adventure series. And then I found 2 more books in the Last Chance Detective series, which I now have all 3 of the original books. And this is book number 3 originally, now book number 4 in the re-releases, but this is Escape from Fire Lake. This is a Christian book series set in the Southwest United States, and it's super fun. I really enjoyed the first one. I read that book, and it was really good. There's a show. There were 3 episodes of the show, and this was one of the episodes, which I actually have not watched in recent memory. So I probably should go back and watch it. I have the show on DVD, so I could go back and watch it. I probably should, just to revisit it. But this is book number 3, now book number 4, because they've re-released them with new covers, which I do have one of those new covers to show you. So I also found book number 7, Quest for the King's Crown by Robert Vernon. Now, I gotta say, I do not really love this art, and I'll show you on the back. It's just not very good. The 3D CGI that looks kind of bad. It looks like a really old school, back from 2002 kind of CGI, unfortunately. So I'm excited to read the storyline because this is a new story. It's not based on an episode because there are only the 3 episodes with all the same characters. So I'm curious about the storyline and what's going to happen, but the artwork on the cover is not my favorite. And then I also found book number 11 in the Ladd Family Adventure series by Lee Roddy, and that is Case of the Dangerous Cruise. Now, this one is in shrink wrap. which I do not understand why it's in shrink wrap exactly, but it is shrink wrapped. And it does look like it's never been read. So I feel like the shrink wrap is original. I don't know why this would have been shrink wrapped, but it is. So this is kind of like an adventure series that has some mysteries to it, but is a little more leans on the adventure side of things about this family. And a lot of them take place in Hawaii, so it's a lot of fun. So this one is book number 11. So I found 4 more books in the Daring Adventure series. So this is book number 6, Hunted on the Rhine. And these are by Peter Rhys Doyle. They're an adventure book series with some mystery to them, but mostly adventure kind of stories. I've read book number 1 in this series, which was a lot of fun. I haven't reviewed it yet, but it was a lot of fun. I did enjoy it. So this one is book number 6. And then I also found book number 7, Launched from the Castle, and book number 9, Kidnapped in Rome. And then book number 10, Lost in the Secret Cave. And last but not least, I found another one of the Carmen Sandiego books by John Peel. This bookstore actually alphabetized all their middle grade used books by author's last name. So it was like John Peel books all the way across the row. And John Peel, if you know, he wrote so many different books in so many different series in the 90s. And he wrote some of his own series, but he would write in different ones as well. Like he wrote the Outer Limits books. He also wrote the Diadem series, but he also wrote in a bunch of different random series like Mystery Files of Shelby Woo, some things like that. You have probably heard his name if you are a fan of 90s middle grade fiction. So this is Where in the USA is Carmen Sandiego? And this one has the cards still intact inside it. So the cards showed you all the different places and also all of the different suspects and things. So originally you could take out all these cards and they have like perforations so you can take them all out. I won't be taking them out, but you could take them out and kind of like arrange them as you try and solve the thefts that are in the storyline. They're kind of choose your own adventure. So it tells you like where to go. You go to different numbers to get more clues, all those sorts of things. So this is another one in the Carmen Sandiego series. So that is everything I found in Colorado while I was on my trip there. It was a lot of fun. I found a lot of fun books and I can't wait to read these. I am so excited. I've been reading quite a bit actually. My book cart right over here off screen is full of books to review that I have read. So I'm going to be getting to more reviews, telling you more about all different kinds of 90s books. Mostly, almost all of my reviews are spoiler free because I want these to be books that you can go to and like see, okay, would I like this one? Would I like that one? And kind of get a feel for them because it's hard to find information about some of these old 90s books, and it can be a little bit of a risk to say, do I want to invest in trying to find that book? And a lot of times you're looking online or hunting in a store for it. So, you know, I think it helps to have some reviews to see what do you think? What would you like? All those sorts of things. So as always, I am very careful about my spoiler reviews because I do not want any spoilers. I don't like spoilers. So when I talk about books and I say it's non-spoiler, I do not talk about big spoilery things because I know what it's like to go into a book having something spoiled and I don't want that experience for you. So come along with me as we keep reading more books and finding books and all the things. It's a lot of fun. And until next time, keep reading, everybody. Bye.